Good afternoon, friends. Today we're kind of working on the floor. Going to make a little bit of a mess today. Now, many of you might remember the 1980 FLT that I got. It's probably been a year ago, maybe two now. I did save the engine from that because it was in good shape and I planned on using it for another project. Well, today I need to take and clean that engine. It's pretty gross, and I figured I've got some new products. I would try them out and I would show you guys what I thought of them and how they might be working for me. But first, we need to work on a couple of things. We'll get this camera moved and we'll show you what we're working with. This is the 1980 Shovelhead engine I'll be working with today. Now I do want to just clean this thing up and I want to spiff it up and make it look nice. Obviously, as you can see, there's oil all over it. The intent is to use this as it is. I'm going to keep the air cleaner that's on it. I do like that. You don't see a lot of bikes running them, so I'd like to keep that on. But I want to go ahead and clean this thing up as best as possible. I've got a couple different tools that I'm going to use on my Dremel today. I've got my Dawn Power Wash, but first things first, I want to go ahead and get this intake removed. Now, if you've never seen one of these, this plastic piece is its own individual piece here, and it does unscrew from the actual housing itself. Often you'll see these things they got heated up and then they warped. So this one is no exception. It has been warped. Of course, it's coming apart kind of tough. And I'll show you what that looks like once I actually get it unthreaded here. It's pretty close. As you can see, it's got a bend to it. You know, this should sit flat, and it did when it was factory new, but they get warm and then they heat up and then they bend. I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it back on because it does look really cool on there. Get the last two studs out of here, and then we'll pull this cover and see what's inside. A lot of times when you see these old shovel heads, these have been taken off and they're gone. It's one of those products that I have a ton of. I've got a lot of these air cleaners and covers. There's something I sell kind of regularly because I know people are going back to them. But it's neat to see these when you take them apart because it's kind of a unique unit. So of course it's an oil bath type system where it's catching the oil. It's oiled on the filter here. There's obviously a backing plate that holds everything together to kind of move the air around. It's got an air scoop inside of here. It's a fairly new filter, it looks like. I mean, new enough. I mean, it isn't completely deteriorated. It's a uni filter, and it does still have its part number on it. And of course, it's oiled. It'll need to be cleaned because, as you can see, there's a ton of actual engine oil on the bottom of that. So we want to clean that up before we use it again. And then on the inside of this, there's going to be 3 studs on the carburetor and 3 studs on 2 mounting studs on the heads. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those next. We'll start by taking off the studs that are mounted to the heads here. These will be a 1/2 inch. There is a nut on the back side. Thankfully, this one's loosening enough by hand where I'll be able to take it apart. Now with the 2 mounts removed, we'll go ahead and remove it from the carburetor. Those are a 7/16. And with all of the hardware out of the way, we can remove the backing plate. There is one vent hose on here. We'll have to get a screwdriver on that. We'll get that undone. All right, with the intake out of the way, now we can kind of see the guts of everything. All of those intake parts will go into the parts washer and be cleaned up, and then they'll be ready to be used again. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to close up the carburetor. Then I want to tape over the mouth of the carburetor and the inlet, so that way I'm not throwing any dust into the carburetor. Even though it's going to get cleaned, I just don't want to get any extra dust in there or have any extra cleaning. Thankfully, the choke lever still works, so that closed up the carb nicely. Now I'm going to go ahead and get some painter's tape. I'm going to tape over this and get this thing secured. Now what I'm working with is a couple of different things here. I've got a couple of brass brushes in different configurations, and then I have this emery style. I'm not sure what this is. It's like I don't know. I can't remember what the heck this stuff's called. But I'm going to try polishing with these and try to clean this stuff up. I'm going to spray this down with power wash, and then I'm going to use my Dremel tool to actually try to scuff the dirt off of this and make this thing shine. All right, I'm going to start by spraying Dawn Power Wash onto the engine here, just right onto the rocker box, just to see what we can do. I'll pre-soak some of the other spots here too, because this will continue to eat the grease while I'm working on this thing. I don't have a lot of this left right now, so I'm trying to use it a little bit sparingly, but I'm going to do what I can to try to get this thing cleaned up today, because I'd like to get this engine done today, so that way I can have it sitting for when I'm ready to use it. Now with the power wash kind of soaking, I'm going to take this emery style stuff here. It's like a foam, or I'm not sure what the heck this is called, but I'm going to try to scrub with this. We're going to see what it does. Now if you look closely, you can see the difference in finish here. It is polishing it, and maybe that's a bad thing. I know I'm going to probably have to go over this again and finalize it so it looks a little better, but it is cleaning it up very well. You can see if I scrub on this a little bit, it still leaves a film and it isn't coming off all the way, and obviously there's going to be some divots from the dirt and the grime where this is actually smoothing it out. Let me grab a towel here and wipe this down so you can see what it actually is going to look like. Maybe you can see that, maybe you can't. I'm going to scrub this over here real quick. But you can see the difference, how it changes from a nice smooth finish to a more rough finish, and that's actually doing a pretty good job. I also want to try those brass brushes and see what that does for me, so let's give that a shot too. Alright, I've got my brass brush installed here. We're going to try to polish on here on this exhaust port and see how this works and see if it does a good job. It's probably hard to tell, but maybe you saw the process coming along, and it did clean up really well. Obviously, there's bristles flying out everywhere, and they're hitting me in the face and all over the place, and this is going to make a giant mess, but it does clean up very well. It is going to take a long time. I also tried to polish on the head here just a little bit to see if that would do anything, and maybe that's an okay choice, but I kind of really like these emery pads. I think these are going to work the best, so I'm going to polish the top and the flat surfaces with this, and I'm going to polish my fins with the brass brush. We'll go ahead and work through this thing and see how far we get. Okay, after polishing for about 2 hours, cleaning and all that good stuff, the engine looks quite a bit better. Now my impressions on these polishing discs, the little emery jobs, I'm not sure what these are again, I don't know what the heck they were. I got them from Amazon. These didn't do too bad. I used 10 of them to get the engine to the point it's at. These brass things, awful. If you want to get poked by all these little brass pieces, use these because they fly all off, they stick right in your skin, they're like little needles. So if you want death by 1,000 pokes, this is probably the way to do it. I would not recommend these. I used one of them, it was awful, and I gave up after that and never used it again. Anyway, here's how that engine came out. Now, is it perfect? No. Do I want it perfect? No. Is it good enough for who it's for? Absolutely. This is going to be part of a project build that I've got going on, and this is kind of the look I want. It's going to have that freshened up look. It doesn't have to look brand new. If I wanted it brand new, I would have taken everything apart, went and got it vapor honed, and gone through and had it all cleaned and reassembled. Now this is a future build. I have a transmission I need to get together yet, and I'm not sure when I'm going to start this whole project. Now I've got a frame, I've got a front end, I've got a swing arm, I've got the transmission, the engine, I have a gas tank, I have the right rear fender I want to use, and pretty much the entire setup I want to run with. I may or may not have the seat yet. That all depends on how it goes. But again, I'm not sure when I'm going to start this build. This might be something I build out in the winter. It might be something I start in the fall. It might be a next year project. I'm not sure. My goal, I think, for this is either to auction off this build or to run a raffle, or maybe even give it away on this channel. I haven't exactly decided yet. My hope is to take one of these bikes and have you folks help me out. What I'm thinking is maybe if I offer an incentive, like we get my channel to 100,000 subscribers, and I hit that 100,000 mark, then I'll do a giveaway. So what do you think about that? If that's something that you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments section below. Of course, if you found this video helpful at all or you liked it, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, hit that subscribe button. I've got a ton of projects going on. I've got a lot of things in my mind, a lot of parts laying around, and a lot of things I want to work on. And now that the business is kind of slow, I have a bunch of parts, I might as well start shooting more content. Now, I wish sales were great. They're not right now. The economy kind of stinks, and I know that's kind of really determining why people are buying or not buying. So with that being said, I have projects that on the back burner that I need to start on. So you might see a lot more content with motorcycles and different projects that I have. Now, I have plenty, and I have time, so I might as well start working on these things. Anyway, friends, that's it for this one. We'll catch you next time.